Welcome into today's episode of Pushing the Pile. Mike Renner, JP Acosta. This show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. We will be rolling through the entire Week 2 slate, giving our picks, giving our takes, giving our locks of the week. But first, JP, I've been looking forward to this since I got to tell the people. I am in Portugal right now. My buddy's wedding, my college roommate is getting married this weekend. I know a destination weekend in football season. I don't even know why I'm here, but I am. And I'm running off of no sleep. I was watching on my phone on the plane, Amazon Prime. It was cutting in and out all last night. And I need to hear your analysis because that win, the Packers 27-18 win over the Washington Commanders. I mean, week one, I was, like I said, I could buy that it was the Detroit Lions without Ben Johnson, with a new look offensive line. Like it just might take a little bit. But this one felt a little bit more real to me, or just felt real in tandem with that week one performance.
That was an ass kicking. Like it's not going to show in the score. It was 27-18. That game was never close. It was never close. And the biggest reason was because of that defense. And it's crazy how much adding a guy like Micah Parsons takes a good defense in Green Bay and turns them into a dominant one. And the way that they did it, and the way that they stopped multiple different offenses in the first 2 weeks, the Commanders offense and the Lions offense are two very different schemes and things you have to prepare for. And they somehow managed to neutralize both teams' greatest threat, which is the run game, and using that ability to run the ball. I think outside of Jaden Daniels' 17 scramble yards, the Commanders had 34 yards rushing, like in true running the ball situations. They had 34 yards. And that's not even due to like game script, because this game was sort of close, I guess, if you want to look at the scoreboard. But the defense just dominated, and it was all the quick pressure. That was it. I think Micah Parsons had an average get off of 0.86 seconds, which is just not real. Not anywhere close to real at all. That's insane. But it's the way that the quick pressure ties into the coverage and the stuff that Jeff Hafley wants to do. The first third down of the game, they spin from single high into an inverted Tampa 2, and Jaden Daniels has to go to a check down because the pressure gets to him. So when you're able to combine a pass secondary and coverage schematics that force quarterbacks to hold on to the ball with Micah Parsons and the pressure that wants you to get the ball out quick, that's asking for a lot of checkdowns. It's asking for what happened to the Commanders on Thursday. That was a dominant win for the Packers defense.
Yeah, the numbers from it, out of this world. I couldn't choose just one number, but the one I did go with, and I actually stole this one from Ben Solak, who posted it on X. He said, out of the 65 offensive plays for the Commanders yesterday, only 2 were explosive gains. So that's gains of 15 or more yards. That would be the lowest rate of any game last season. And that's a Commanders team where, like, it's not like they're an elite explosive offense, but they're pretty good at generating them. Even if last week against the Giants, they weren't great at it either. I think Jaden Daniels attacking down the football field, you haven't quite seen it yet. You haven't quite seen that leap from him yet. But the other numbers, 4 sacks, 12 total hits, 4.8 yards per attempt they held Jaden Daniels to, 2.7 yards per carry. And now they faced last year 2 of the top 4 offenses in terms of EPA per play, the Lions, the Commanders. You can say they take a step back, whatever. Like, they're still darn good offenses. Against those 2, they've allowed negative 0.91 EPA per play. To put that in perspective, that's the same as the Minnesota Vikings allowed last year. That would have been the second best in the entire NFL over the course of the season. And that's against the 2 of the 4 best offenses from last year. So this isn't even like throwing in that random game against like the Titans or the backup quarterback that you get on your schedule. This is like the cream of the crop that they're going up against and dominating to this manner.
And it really does show how much growth this defense has gone through in the second year with Jeff Hafley. I think one of the things that stood out outside of Micah Parsons was how well they communicate on the back end. Keyshawn Nixon had an incredible game. I think they charted him with 5 pass breakups. I was a little concerned about that cornerback spot going into the year, and Keyshawn Nixon has kind of locked that down. Evan Williams had a great game. I think Javon Bullard, he had a sick play on the screen to Deebo Samuel where he defeats both blockers and takes takes down Samuel for a tackle for loss. That is incredible. And I think that's something that we're seeing the constant trend of growth. This team was really young on both sides of the ball last year. They still are very young, but they're trending upwards. And if this trend continues, we're looking at arguably the best defense in football.
Yeah, I mean, to this point, it's hard to argue with the results that they put up there. And Kirk Herbstreit touched on it. I think it was right after that play by Bullard. He said, when you watch this team on tape, they rally, they're hungry. And you just like see it because there's so many young guys. And then you have someone in Micah Parsons who just like his play style is personifying that for all his like maybe off-field concerns and locker room concerns. When that guy gets out on the football field for you, he is going to be a tone setter. He is going to elevate everyone else just because his level of energy every single play. And it's infectious. And you see it at every level of that defense. So yeah, I hand up. Packers homers gets. I didn't expect this whatsoever. I expected after the Parsons addition still to be a top 10 defense. I expected kind of them to end up where they were last year because I thought they overachieved a little bit last year, but they've had so many guys take the leap, whether it's Bullard, whether it's Edgerrin Cooper, whether it's Devontae Wyatt, whether it's Lucas Van Ness. That's 4 guys to your defense. I didn't even throw Quay Walker in there who, he gave up the touchdown, Zach Ertz, but he's looked a lot more reliable at minimum. That's like half your defense, over half your defense, that's taken big steps from okay to good to very good in some cases, or even elite in maybe Edgerrin Cooper's case. So that's a night and day difference. And that's, sometimes how it goes when you have a really young roster. So very excited about the potential for this Packers team. I know we're getting whispers that they're the favorites now in the NFC. Are you willing to go that far after 2 games?
I'm not. I still think it's the Eagles, especially with the Jaden Reed injury. He broke his collarbone during the game, going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. I do want to see if they can get some more of the others in that receiving room to step up. I think Tucker Kraft had an awesome game. So if you can get him playing well, Dontavian Wicks caught the ball, which is always a good sign.
When they put him on the hands team, I was like, this is like a joke, right? Dontavian Wicks hands team.
This has got to be an elaborate bit by Matt LaFleur to put him on the hands team. Maybe he's trying to teach him a lesson, but he did it. He caught it. He caught 4 passes. You got some nice stuff from Matthew Golden, who I think they're trying to incorporate more into the offense. You even got some cool Savion Williams touches. So I think they're just still trying to experiment and figure out who they want to be and where they're going to go with the offense. I even think they left some plays on the board offensively. The touchdown that was batted away on the first drive to Golden was there. I think there was a deep post that was also a touchdown. If
I think that's Golden too.
Hit it. Yep. Matthew Golden is going to get one eventually. Yeah. He is so close to breaking through. So if they're able to get some of the others in that receiving room to step up when Jaden Reed is out, then I'm really going to be excited about their future.
Yeah, I plead the 5th on who's the favorite in the NFC as it stands right now, but we'll get to see them against the Philadelphia Eagles week 10, November 10th, Monday Night Football. I'll be in the house. Can't wait to see it. All right, week 1 in the books. Now week 2 preview here. Week 1 in the books. We're doing our week 1 recap of our locks. We had a pretty good week, JP. You went 2 out of 3. You hit Bijan Robinson's receiving over. That always feels good when you have a receiving over and it's like 1 play and it's over. I think that was like 4 plays into that game and you had it.
I told my girlfriend watching the game next to me, I was like, there it is. I'm on the board. As soon as he took that touchdown, I was happier about that touchdown than probably any other Atlanta Falcon fan because I was like, I got one on the board.
Dude, it kills me how much I care about these picks every single week. Like how much I am there sweating out. I was sweating out Cam Ward's under 193.5. And I'm like, come on, Denver, come on. And like, I love Cam Ward. I want him to succeed, but I'm like, I gotta hit this under. I digress. You hit Bijan's over. You hit the Bengals, Browns under 47.5. Didn't quite hit the Texans +3. That one was a tight one. I went 5 out of 6. I hit Cam Ward's under. I barely scraped by on the Broncos -7.5 and the Jets +2.5. Got those both by a half point. I got the Giants Commanders under 45.5. I got Drake Mays over on 214.5 passing yards, but did not hit the Carolina Jacksonville over. Come on, Bryce. And then Harry, 1 out of 3 on his locks. Didn't hit the Dolphins. Didn't hit that Jags over that I liked as well, but he did get Debo's anytime TD. So we'll get to the week 1 preview here. get to some, or excuse me, week 2. I keep getting the weeks mixed up. I said I'm running on a little sleep. I'm going to make some mistakes. Week 2 preview, Eagles Chiefs coming up first right after this. But first, Sunday, you can count on the NFL on CBS delivering divisional rivalries and some of the best QBs in the game, including reigning MVP Josh Allen taking his show on the road when the Bills face Justin Fields and the Jets. It all begins at noon Eastern with JB and the guys on NFL Today. You can always count on Sunday with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. So even if you can't count on accurate expiration dates,
that is a rookie mistake,
or people appreciating your fashion sense,
Jim, the crowd is not on board here.
you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount Plus.
Glad we wear our good jerseys.
Yeah. All right, Eagles travel to Kansas City to face the Chiefs. Super Bowl rematch. Eagles 1.5-point favorites here. 46.5 points is the over-under. Obviously, Eagles coming off that 24-20 win against the Cowboys. Chiefs coming off that loss in Brazil against the Chargers, 27-21. Some injury news. Dallas Goedert questionable for this one. Xavier Worthy, though, he might play. A lot of people thought the shoulder injury, is he out for the season? It looked bad. He was a limited participant, and he was already warming up the shoulder celebration, like the fake injury, and then rocket shoulder celebration. I saw that clip earlier today. So what are you looking for in this matchup of the Super Bowl, JP?
I think this game is going to be a really sluggish one. This is actually one of my locks. I have this game going under because I just think both teams still kind of feel a bit sluggish. I think we all know what the Chiefs' issues have been. I do think they're going to struggle a lot with this Eagles defense that can kind of pin their ears back, especially with Jalen Carter in the game. I do wonder if the Chiefs actually try and use some more under center in their run game and their passing game to try and mesh some of what their running backs are good at with what Patrick Mahomes is good at. And I think it'll help getting some more play action because they still really can't like pass block for that long. I think Sua Mataia might be a bit of he is the red X. Him and Jawan Taylor are the red X's on this offensive line, and the Eagles are really well equipped to attack that. So I expect them to try and neutralize the pass rush by just kind of run the ball at them and use play action. I won't be surprised if they kind of go with the RPO side to side stuff in this game, just because they can't block them up front. And then I do still worry about the communication for the Chiefs defense, but the Eagles offense really was sluggish against Dallas on Thursday. It still feels like they're trying to figure stuff out. So when both teams are trying to figure something out, I'm going to take the under here. And this game feels like it's going to be a knockdown drag out fight.
Yeah, I like the under because I just don't see any reason to think that the Chiefs' offensive woes that we saw in the Super Bowl are going to change. Like what did they add in the last 7 months now, 8 months? What did they add in the last 8 months that's made you think that this Chiefs team is all of a sudden going to be different? A rookie left tackle who had multiple penalties in week 1. Like he was fine. He's not a massive upgrade. And they honestly may have, at left guard going up against Jalen Carter and Kingsley Suamataia, that could be a big mismatch the way it was in that Super Bowl. So it obviously wasn't Kingsley in the Super Bowl though, but I love the underpick that you have. I know it's in KC and not a neutral field, but this Chiefs offense just feels mismatched right now. And even if Xavier Worthy does play, it feels like the Eagles, you got to have some supreme dudes to beat the Eagles the way we saw some of the supreme dudes on the Cowboys do in week 1. I don't see the Chiefs having that right now. I just don't.
The Chiefs don't have the receiving talent to make a factor like Adoree Jackson or Jacorian Bennett starting opposite Quinion Mitchell be a problem.
Yes.
I think the Cowboys were able to do that last week because they have CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. You had to choose which guy to defend, but with this offense, with this receiver group looking the way it is now, like even if Xavier Worthy plays, which I don't know if he'll play a lot, but even if he does play, like you don't really have that threat at receiver outside of Travis Kelce, who they have shown they can kind of take away from Patrick Mahomes. So you're going to be relying on Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyquan Thornton. Oh my gosh, I forgot the other one. He got the Brownlee, Jason Brownlee. It's you're throwing a Jason Brownlee in this game, and that's going to be tough for them to beat the Eagles with, especially to beat this defense. I just worry about them becoming a pincushion too quickly.
And then everyone's going to throw the stat out. If they go 0-2, 11% of teams. 11% of teams that go 0-2 make the playoffs, so they will be behind the 8 ball if that's the case. All right, let's get to the Bucs at Texans, one of your Monday Night Football matchups here this week. Texans 2.5-point favorites at home, obviously coming off that loss against the Rams, 14-9. Bucs coming off that win at the Falcons on the road yet again. The over-under here is 42.5, and this is one of my locks. Now, I don't feel great about it given the injuries on the Bucs. Obviously, Tristan Wirfs still doubtful, unlikely to play. Luke Gedeke, right tackle, banged up, likely to play, but wasn't practicing on Thursday. But I love the Bucs here just because they have so many options offensively. I think you can pick and choose where to attack in this Texans defense in a way that you pretty much have to move the football against them. Whereas on the flip side of it, Jake Andrews, center for the Texans, unlikely to play, going up against this Bucs defense with the underpowered Texans offense right now, with no running back room, with no wide receivers outside of Nico Collins, with an offensive line that is just, I mean, a work in progress, to be kind about it. I don't love anyone going up against this Bucs defense if you are not talented, because there's really only the linebacker core that you can attack. And this front, this front that's just so deep now with the additions of guys like Hassan Reddick, they just can send it from everywhere. Like all 4 guys can win their matchups against this Texans offensive line.
And something that really kind of went underrated in the game against the Falcons last week was how much pressure the Bucs were able to get on the Falcons. Michael Penix was under duress for a long portion of the game. He was able to make it kind of work because he was really good under pressure, but they were able to do a lot of stunts, a lot of loops, a lot of pass rush games, and really get after the Atlanta Falcons offensive line. And now you're playing an offensive line in Houston that not only is going to be missing Jake Andrews potentially, but Cam Robinson was banged up during the game. So you had to switch Ariante Ursary from right tackle to left tackle and bring in Blake Fisher. Then I think one of the guards went out. I think they played like 3 different offensive line combinations in the first game, which is never a great sign. But if you're able to get pressure on this Houston offense, they kind of turtle a little bit. I do want to see if Houston can get Nico Collins involved more, but it's going to be hard to run the ball when you're playing the Bucs always. They're one of the toughest run defenses in the NFL. And if you turn this into a drop back game, Todd Bowles just going to start poking holes in the offensive line.
Yeah, week 1, the Texans offense was bottom 4 in the NFL in rushing success rate. It was ugly there for them. I don't see that turning around, and I just don't love the games where it's CJ, hey, go win us it, especially when it's against a pass rush like this Bucs team, because that's just a recipe for him just taking a zillion hits. So hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully they hold up better than that. But that's why this is one of my locks of the week. Tampa Bay covering 2.5. All right, other Monday Night Football game here. Chargers at Raiders, a game that got a lot more interesting after both teams won as dogs in week 1. Obviously, Chargers over the Chiefs, Raiders over the Patriots. The one big injury to note here, Brock Bowers didn't practice on Thursday with a knee injury. We'll see if he goes. Obviously, a big loss there given went for over 100 in week 1. 46.5 points is the over-under here. I kind of like this under, not enough to lock it, but I just feel like this Raiders defense is greater than the sum of its parts right now. They're going to play above their pay grade, similar to the way the Chargers do. The Chargers are the kings of that in the NFL right now. I just think this game is built to be a tight one. I really don't have a take on who wins, but I'm looking forward to this one. I think it's going to determine a lot in terms of the AFC West pecking order.
Did you see the quote Pete Carroll gave a couple? I think it was maybe yesterday morning.
No,
when he was asked about Jim Harbaugh. He's asked about Jim Harbaugh. So
the rivalry.
He said, "I remember Jim. I have no fond memories." I love this so much. This is NFL. This is the NFL's 2 favorite uncles, 2 favorite grandpas going at it again. This is why we play the game. I am super excited to watch this Raiders offense go against the Chargers defense. Is something where I think the Chargers have improved a lot is their middle of the field coverage. I think with having Deion Henley in the game, having him improve the way he did. And if you're going to be without Brock Bowers, that's going to take away a lot of stuff over the middle of the field for the Raiders. I feel like this is going to be a game where both quarterbacks and Geno Smith and Justin Herbert are faced with a lot of different tasks, a lot of different things from the defenses, but they're going to play really well. They always do. I am a little bit concerned about the play action of the Chargers kind of just playing with the eyes of Devin White, who has never really had the greatest eyes at linebacker. So if you're able to take advantage of his eyes, you're going to see a lot of open voids for Ladd McConkey in the passing game. But I think this is going to be a really, really fun game, really tight game. I hope to see some really good trench battles between both teams. If, the big thing is Max Crosby lines up predominantly on the right side, and this is going to be the Trey Pipkins right side experience. So we'll see what happens there, but this game is going to be really fun.
Yeah, I think that's just a teensy bit more of a test than George Karlaftis was in week 1 for him. I think that's being kind. I want to see this Raiders run game get on track, though. I was super excited about Ashton Jeanty and a Chip Kelly offense. Week 1 was very much a dud in that regard. 38 yards, 18 carries. Raiders ended up I think third worst in EPA per rush, second worst success rate. It just was a Geno Smith put the team on his back sort of game. I want to see that change. Now the Chargers, they are as technically sound, as well coached. Any Jim Harbaugh defense, you can write that home. They are going to play the run. I want to see what Chip Kelly has up his sleeve. I want to see a few more wrinkles, a few more interesting ways to get Ashton Jeanty the football in space, because the man's entertaining and did not look as such in week 1. So we'll see. All right, Sunday Night Football. Falcons at Vikings. Vikings 3.5-point favorites here. 44.5 points is the over-under. Obviously, Falcons coming off that loss to the Bucs. Vikings coming off that comeback win against the Bears, where people were writing. I saw an article calling J.J. McCarthy. He proved it to the locker room. He's already the guy. He made Kevin O'Connell look smart already with a quarter of the game. We don't have to do that, guys. We don't have to, with these young quarterbacks, make these proclamations. But I thought that was absolutely absurd. But this is a great one because a lot of people were very surprised when it was Michael Penix at 8, not J.J. McCarthy. Well, not J.J. McCarthy, not a defensive end or anyone else at non-quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons, but surprised that Penix went over McCarthy in the first place. So the battle of the 8th and 10th overall picks from last season.
This game is going to be really fun. I have really enjoyed watching Michael Penix play football, and it's not only for some of the fireworks that he has in his arm. I mean, the dude can throw 110 miles an hour. There was a play where I think he's trying to throw a little spot route to Drake London, and he throws the ball between both defenders, and I don't think Drake London's ready for the ball coming into him at that speed, and he drops it. But it's just like, look, man, he almost threaded the needle there. I think this game is going to be a really big test for him because of how much variant in coverage Brian Flores is going to throw at him. And I think something that he did really well against Tampa was make use as a scrambler. He was a really good scrambler in that game. I think that's something where, we saw Caleb Williams be really effective as a scrambler. So I think you're going to see a lot of Michael Penix Jr. scrambles. I'm actually kind of excited about the Falcons defense. They're another one where they're a lot better than their individual parts. And I think that is a lot of a test to Jeff Ulbrich. Devon Diablo played really great in the game against Tampa. Xavier Watts, Billy Bowman had great games. I want to see if they can get home with their pressure. I want to see if they can start converting some of those pressures into sacks because they didn't do that very well against Tampa. I want to see them convert against a rookie quarterback. I don't know if Christian Darrisaw is going to play. So if he does, then that changes things. But if Justin School is in there, I want to see them sort of create some more negative plays because they're due for one. Xavier Watts is due for an interception.
Oh, my gosh. And I think James Pierce, if Justin School's in there, is going to go off. Now, the injuries are a big thing to monitor here because there's a lot of impactful positions. A few for the Vikings are Jeffrey Okudah and Andrew Van Ginkel have concussions. They have yet to practice, yet to be cleared to come back. So obviously, Van Ginkel just a flat out playmaker there on the edge. And then Jeffrey Okudah, one of your corners. I don't even know who next man up is there. Minnesota's cornerback room is so depleted at this point. Christian Darrisaw was a full participant, but obviously given the injury, given the severity of it, given how long the window or comeback has been for him, not necessarily sure if that means he's for sure playing this weekend. Then the other one for Atlanta, Darnell Mooney, limited participant with a shoulder, maybe back this weekend. If it goes like swings where all three of those Vikings guys are out, and Ryan Kelly actually did practice on Thursday with a toe injury. If you see all those guys out and Darnell Mooney back, I'm for sure going Falcons. Either way, I'm still kind of leaning Falcons. I like this matchup with their wide receivers against those Vikings corners. I like Penix's ability to just get the ball out of his hands quickly against those Vikings pressure looks. And I just don't trust JJ McCarthy against those Falcon safeties right now. You said they're due for picks. Those are guys who feast on rookie quarterbacks.
I sort of lean Minnesota here. I'm taking the home game aspect into it. And again, the pressure that Minnesota is going to be able to get. Atlanta gave up a lot of pressure to Tampa Bay through a lot of the pass rush games, through a lot of stunts. I think that Minnesota's front line is a lot better. Not a lot better, but they are better than Tampa's. I think they're going to be able to get home, and that's kind of you're going to have to get home if you're going to be able to beat this Falcons offense, especially with the way that their cornerback room is set up. I think after Okuda, you're looking at Dwight McGlothern or Isaiah Rodgers, which is not great, not great at all. So we'll see what happens at their cornerback spot, but I'm sort of liking Minnesota here. I want to see if they're able to run the ball, sort of lean on Atlanta a little bit, and take some pressure off of JJ McCarthy.
All right, let's get to Jacksonville at Cincy, one of the fireworks shows of the weekend. Couldn't believe this over-under didn't get into the 50s. And because of that, I like the under. Didn't go locks, but I like the over. Didn't go lock with it, but I do like the over. Some injuries of note, Lucas Patrick went to IR this week with a calf injury, the guard for the Bengals. Amaris Mims, a limited participant with an ankle. And if you know anything about Amaris Mims, if he's a limited participant, that's not a good sign. A guy hasn't played through injuries a ton over the course of his career. Both these teams won in week one, but I don't think either of these teams, you would say their week one performances were as good as maybe you had hoped coming into this season. For the Jags, obviously defensive resurgence, nice to see. But for the Bengals was kind of like a classic week one Bengals game. I have no real heads or tails to this. Obviously it's in Cincinnati, so leaning towards the home team, always in that. But I just think this is a game that ends up in the 30s on both sides, and it's whichever quarterback ends up making the fewest mistakes, hitting the most throws.
I am admittedly hand up Jaguars homer. So I really want to see this Jaguars defense against Joe Burrow, because one of the things they did really well against the Panthers was they dictated pressure. They dictated pass protection. They showed a lot of stuff. Like they were throwing these cool rotations in from pressure looks. It looked a lot like Jeff Hafley with the Packers. The problem is I think Joe Burrow is a lot better than Bryce Young, especially at dictating pressure and managing pressure. And you also have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on the outside. Now, I think Liam Cohen said that Travis Hunter is going to play more DB this week. And again, it kind of goes back to the situational thing we talked about with Travis Hunter, where, look, you're playing the best receiver duo in the league. We're going to need you at corner. So I think I want to see this defense really get pressure without blitzing or without having to show those pressure looks, because even when they showed them, Tedero McMillan was open. There were available plays downfield, but they just couldn't get the ball to him. I think the Jaguars offense is going to try and lean on Cincy's defense a little bit. They're going to try and run the ball at them. I think with the way they ran the ball for 200 yards against the Panthers, they're going to try and run it again on them. And I really do expect Liam Cohen to just play with the eyes of Demetrius Knight at linebacker. Logan Wilson is a good linebacker, especially in pass coverage, but they're going to try and isolate Demetrius Knight. I expect a lot of ETN and Brenton Strange targets in this game. So this could be a really fun one. I think this is also a close game.
Yeah, I think the Jags' path to success is on the ground. I think they can move the ball through the air. I don't think they can move the ball through the air as efficiently as they need to go toe-to-toe with Joe Burrow in this game. And I think you hit the nail on the head there with the Jags defense a week ago. The results were great. If you go back and watch tape, it's like there were plays to be made that if you had receivers that can catch and stay in bounds, if you had a quarterback that's consistently accurate, that would have been a completely different ball game. And oh, by the way, the Cincinnati Bengals have those about as good as anyone has in the NFL. So, I lean Bengals. Just home opener. They're dyeing the orange. They're dyeing the river green there in Cincinnati. So it's going to be rocking in the jungle. Give me the Bengals in that one. All right, Broncos at Colts. Two different week ones for these teams, but both came away with the win. Broncos 20-12 over the Titans. Colts trounced the Dolphins at home 33-8. Broncos favored on the road here, though. 2.5-point favorites even after that lackluster week one. 43.5 points is the over-under here. Some interesting injury notes, though, specifically on Indianapolis's defense. Latu, DNP on Thursday with a hammy. Charvarius Ward has a concussion. And then Jalen Jones with a hammy as well. So their cornerback room may be very depleted against this Broncos unit over the weekend.
That's really tough, because one of the reasons I was excited to watch this game was Lou Anarumo versus Sean Payton. That is really what's going to decide this game. I think that if the Broncos and if Bo Nix play the way they did on Sunday against Tennessee, against Indianapolis, I don't know if they come out with a win, because the thing that Indianapolis has shown is that they know what their game plan is. They're going to try and shorten games. They're going to try and run the ball a lot, and they're going to just make sure Daniel Jones doesn't make mistakes. The best way to do that is by giving your offense so much of a leeway on the defensive side of the ball that you just make sure they don't even have to play very well. I think with what Lou Anarumo does, especially with all the drop 8 and all the disguise coverages they're going to throw at Bo Nix, I think there's going to be another one where you don't really see the Broncos push the ball downfield. But if they don't push the ball downfield, are they going to be able to convert on third downs? Are they going to be able to move the ball if they're not getting explosives? So I really do want to see if Bo Nix can sort of figure out this Lou Anarumo defense. I want to see if Sean Payton has anything dialed up to kind of help Bo Nix out. But this is one side of the ball with the Colts offense versus Broncos defense feels about as lopsided as possibly can, while the other one feels like this could be what decides the game.
Yeah, I'm going to go with my theory of tossing out week one for the most part. In week two, sort of betting out. It's like week one, you just throw it to the side for a second. Obviously, if there's something in some way, shape, or form, like players that looked a lot better than years prior, you can add that into the mix in terms of like young guys. But like Daniel Jones playing a lot better to me was more indicative of the Dolphins defense than anything that Daniel Jones is doing, even if he maybe has a better situation. So because of that, I think if this game would have happened prior to week one, it would have been like 4.5, 5.5. And so I like the Broncos side, and I love the under in this one for all the reasons you mentioned. That Indianapolis Colts are going to try to make this running game. And the interesting thing about the Broncos' lackluster performance, they shut down the Titans on the ground. I think they held them to the lowest EPA per carry of any team week one. So that was their maybe one, Achilles heel from a year ago. Best pass coverage in the NFL. You could run the ball on them sometimes. I think with the additions they made this offseason, now Dre Greenlaw may not play in this game, but guys like Talanoa Hufanga, I think this run defense is going to take a step forward. And because of that, give me the Broncos in this one.
I also like the Broncos. I feel like this game is going to be a shortened game, but if it's close, you're going to have to rely on Daniel Jones to not mess up. And against arguably the best defense in football, it feels like he's bound for a comeback to earth performance.
Yes. All right. Let's get to Seattle at Pittsburgh. Steelers 3-point favorites at home. 39.5 points is the over/under. Believe that's the lowest of any number this weekend. Steelers in that boat for back-to-back weeks. No one buying the Aaron Rodgers breakout. Just hating on him yet again. Some big injuries, though, in this one. A lot in the Seahawks secondary. Julian Love didn't practice yesterday with a groin injury. Devon Witherspoon didn't practice yesterday with a knee injury. Nick Emmanwori didn't practice yesterday with an ankle injury, their second-round pick. And then a few for the Steelers. Derek Harmon, first-rounder, still out with an MCL. Joey Porter has a hammy. It's kind of hammy season. Post-week one, the amount of hammies, first-time guys are really lighting it up, letting it rip.
Everybody getting back into the swing of things.
Hammy season. So a lot of hammy DNPs. We'll see who goes in this one. But obviously these teams feeling a lot different about their performances from week one. Seahawks feel like they gave one away, whereas the Steelers feeling like they stole one against the Jets. Who do we like here?
Oh, man. This is a tough one because I think that this game is basically the Seahawks run game against Aaron Rodgers point and shoot. as well as Aaron Rodgers played on Sunday against the Jets, which I do think he played very well. He had an ADOT of 4.4. Like, he was not throwing the ball downfield. There were a lot of screens to DK Metcalf. There were a lot of those arrow routes to Jonnu Smith. He was not pushing the ball downfield. If this Seahawks secondary is healthy, if they all play, they are going to punish the Steelers for not actively throwing the ball downfield. And I feel like they have the pass rush to make a guy like Broderick Jones look like a gaping hole in this offense. So I really worry about Jones in this game, and I worry about how they're able to push the ball against Seattle. But on the other side of the ball, I mean, somebody outside of JAX-CIN has to step up at receiver. They need something to happen. But if you're spin zoning it, if the way the Steelers play defense against the Jets was indicative of anything, they don't have anybody who can really stop the run. I think that's why they're waiting for Derek Harmon to come back. But if the Seahawks are able to kind of lean on them in the ground game, if they're able to once again shorten this game, I think they can try and lean on that defense to win. I'm kind of feeling Seattle here, especially if their secondary is healthy and playing, because eventually Aaron Rodgers is going to have to throw the ball downfield. Eventually they're going to have to generate some explosives. And I don't know if they're going to be able to generate explosives with this offensive line against this pass rush unit.
See, I lean Steelers in this one. I just don't think the Seahawks, I just don't trust the Seahawks offense, quite frankly. I don't think the 49ers are any great shakes defensively. They made them look good over the course of that game because they're so one-dimensional in the passing attack. It's the thing we said all offseason. And that came to fruition week one. It's like 83% of the offense, or 83% of the passing game goes through JAX-CIN. And for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think the running game will change and get better because Cam Hayward is going to get better after the hold-in. I think week one, against what they saw, the Jets running game specifically and the uniqueness of that compared to the rest of the NFL in terms of like the personnel there, but also what they're doing with Justin Fields and Breece Hall in the backfield, just going to not be the same thing with Seattle Seahawks. There's no option threat here. There is no misdirection threat here from the Seattle Seahawks. You kind of know what you're getting out of this running attack from Clint Kubiak. So I think the Steelers bounce back in that regard. And then if you have all those injuries, if you're really not playing Julian Love, Devon Witherspoon, Nick Emmanwori, if you're down that many guys in the secondary, I mean, Rodgers can have a 4.5 ADOT again. They can still probably move the football. So I'm a lean Steelers in this one. This is one of Harry's locks, though. Harry likes the over. 39.5. Harry is going over because obviously the Steelers week one, big time over in that game. All right, we're going to take a quick break after that, going to finish off the rest of the slate and then recap our locks coming up right after this.
You can't count on Derek's taunt skills.
Oh, Tony, I think it hit the ground.
But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount+.
All right, Chicago Bears traveling to Detroit to face the Lions after both teams lost in week one, both to their division rivals. Lions to the Packers, Bears to the Vikings in a heartbreaker. 47.5 points is the over-under. This is the Ben Johnson return game. I wish we had Kyle here to give his pick. I'll tell you what it is. It's Chicago Bears. He has the Chicago Bears winning this one, though. So who do you have winning this one, JP?
Man, this feels like the anxiety bowl. This feels like whoever comes out of this one on the wrong side, things are going to start going off. The alarm bell is going to start ringing. Radio shows in the city are going to start questioning everything. This game feels like, I don't want to say it's must win because it's week 2, but man, somebody really needs a win coming out of this one. I think I kind of lean Detroit here because I do think their defense is going to bounce back, and I think that they're going to be able to stop the run once again. And I just kind of wonder if the passing game for the Bears can kind of get in sync. Something that really stood out after the game was Declan Doyle saying that the fourth down DJ Moore route that Caleb sailed was actually the wrong route by DJ Moore. And so if you're still trying to figure out, like, this is year 2 of DJ Moore and Caleb Williams, he turns what's supposed to be a corner route into a go route against cover 2, and Caleb's throwing it like it's a corner route. If you're still dealing with that week 2, I do wonder what you're going to be able to do against this Detroit defense. They're going to play a lot more man coverage, so you might have more opportunities to make something shake downfield. But I think I lean on Detroit being able to bounce back and getting Aiden Hutchinson more involved as a pass rusher. So I think I lean Detroit, but this one's going to be close. It's going to be ugly. And again, nobody's going to feel happy coming out of this.
See, I love the Bears in this one. Maybe not to win outright. I think they have a good chance of winning outright, though. I just something about this Detroit Lions team, specifically the interior of that offensive line, I'm worried about against the Chicago Bears. And then also I think the Bears, with as many weapons as they have, with Ben Johnson returning home, it's like Batman fighting Ra's al Ghul, right? He's coming back, and he knows more than the master at this point, and everyone knows it. And I think he's uniquely qualified to take it to this Detroit Lions defense that he's been around that hasn't really changed its stripes since Aaron Glenn left. And I think he knows how to attack it and has the weapons to. And if it's, like you said, more man coverage, a little bit simpler looks, a little bit, it's always going to be simpler than what you see from Brian Flores. A little bit simpler looks, I think you see Caleb a big-time bounce-back game. So I'm leaning Bears. I think I like the Bears to win outright. Who do you think, though, if they lose? If Caleb looks bad and the Bears lose, or Detroit looks rough again offensively and the Lions lose, who is the bigger panic button press in this game?
I think the bigger panic button probably leans towards Detroit, because everybody still expected them to be at the top of the NFC. And given the strengths of what this team wants to be, especially on the ground game, through running the football, protecting Jared Goff, if their interior offensive line does not play well again and they lose because of that, that's when the alarm bells start ringing. I know they're young, they're going to play, they're going to get a lot more reps, and I think they'll get better with the reps, but the schedule also won't get easier. So I do wonder if they lose, the alarm bells start ringing. I think, obviously, with it being Chicago, if Caleb plays bad, then yeah, it's going to get really ugly there. But I think Detroit needs this win a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm with you there. That it's just because of pure expectations that if the Lions go 0-2, and again, against two teams in your division, and if you just don't look like the same team as you were a year ago, because the expectation, you were so good a year ago, everyone's going to be like, hey, they're just not going to have it. If you lose your off two coordinators that were so good and so coveted, and you come way crashing back down to earth, all of a sudden you are not built to compete with the top end of the NFC. All right, let's get to the Browns at Ravens. Ravens, 11.5-point favorites here. Don't have to spend too long on this one. 45.5 points is the over-under. Do the Browns have a chance, JP?
Oh, my goodness. Look, it's any given Sunday. Anything can happen in the NFL. But a pissed-off Ravens team at home against a Browns offense that had drop issues, protection issues, couldn't really run the ball. Now they're going up against a better defense in Baltimore that's pissed off after giving away 40 points, giving off that comeback to Buffalo. And you're playing a very pissed off Baltimore offense and a very pissed off Derrick Henry, who now has the fuel to fire that Grant Delpit said that Derrick Henry's not hard to tackle.
Why even poke the bear?
Look, I love the Browns secondary because they will always talk shit. That is not the guy I'm talking shit to. Because the last time he played the Browns, I think he ran for 183 yards and 2 touchdowns. So this feels like a game that's gonna be a blowout. I do have Harold Fannin over 3.5 receptions. I think he is their most consistent receiving threat outside of David Njoku, and they clearly want to get him involved in the offense. I should have done receptions and rushing attempts. I think that'd be pretty fun, but I do think Harold Fannin Jr. is going to have a lot of targets in this game because I think Cleveland's going to go down early. They're going to be down often, and they're going to have to throw the ball to get back into the game.
I love that prop. I'm so pissed because I land here in Portugal, throw up FanDuel on my phone, and it says, hey, you can't use FanDuel in freaking Portugal. Didn't even think that went through, so couldn't find any props. I could find the lines, though, but unfortunately didn't get to any props. But that one feels like, just if you watched his usage and where Joe Flacco's eyes were, this feels very safe that he is looking for Harold Fan in that offense, and the offense is putting him in kind of the safety blanket and scheme target position that he is going to be integral. It was not just a fluke, his usage. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be like an all-pro, but he is going to get usage in that offense at minimum. And yeah, I if I'm betting anything in this game, it's one that to the under. I don't think the Browns score a lot of points. I think, like you said, the Ravens come back pissed off, and because they played fairly well in that game for 3.5 quarters before just the wheels completely came off. I think they're going to go back to the drawing board this week and say, hey, we got mismatches left and right against this Cleveland Browns team. We need to send a message. And I think they will.
I do wonder how long of a leash Jair Alexander gets at that second corner spot. Marlon Humphrey talked this week about look, we need to be better. There are players on this team who have to be better. And it felt like they were talking specifically to Jair Alexander. So if you see Jair kind of get worked early and they start targeting him early, I do wonder how short of a leash he gets, because the Ravens have shown they are not afraid to pull guys if they're not liking what they're seeing on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm curious what happens there.
I'm not sure Jair's the guy I want to bench. I'm not sure he's the guy I want in my locker room after he got benched. I'll just say that. I don't think we need any more explanation on that. All right, Los Angeles Rams at Tennessee Titans. Rams 5.5-point favorites after that big win, 14-9 against the Texans in week 1. 41.5 points is the over-under, but some very key injuries to monitor for this Rams team, feeling like a repeat of early on last season where Steve Avila, ankle, DNP, Kevin Dotson and Rob Havenstein, both ankles as well. Limited participants yesterday. They need to be doing what's that, BOSU ball work in that O-line room. A lot of ankle injuries there. Something to monitor, obviously, because if you'll recall, it was kind of week 3 to week 7 last year. The Rams were just not a football team because they were not starting NFL offensive linemen. That could be the case here. I think I still like him against the Tennessee Titans if those guys aren't playing, but it is a lot tighter game if those guys aren't playing. That's for darn sure.
I think the game is close if your offensive line isn't playing. Missing 3 of your 5 starters on the offensive line is bad. I know, controversial thing to say, but I think they just have too much with Matthew Stafford, with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, that I really do think they're going to pose a lot more challenges for the Titans passing defense than the Broncos did, because there's so many threats you have to account for in this passing game. You're going to see a lot more 12 personnel. You're going to see a lot more involvement of Terrence Ferguson. You're going to see a lot more of Tutu Atwell downfield. There's so many things you have to consider when defending this Rams offense that I do think they're going to be able to get it done. I also just don't think the Titans are going to be able to move the ball. I really don't. This is another big mismatch, especially if JC Latham doesn't play. He didn't practice yesterday. One play really sticks out from that game against Denver, and they're motioning Chigokonkwo into a screen, and everybody is blocking. Nobody is there to catch a screen target. Cam Ward has to dirt it because nobody's paying attention. And then the next play, JC Latham is laid off the ball because he's looking at the ball, doesn't know snap count, and Jonathan Cooper just blasts right past him for a sack. That kind of feels like what the Titans are going to be this year. So I think they're going to keep it close, because if the offensive line for the Rams doesn't play, then maybe this game is low scoring. But the Rams just have too much up front. They have too much Matthew Stafford, too much Puka, too much Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I thought the Broncos had a D to F performance and still won by 8 points. Now, they were at home. It was Tennessee Titans, first game, Cam Ward. But, I think all it takes is 2 of these O linemen to play and a C performance against the Rams. I don't see how it doesn't go Rams covering, under hitting. And even if Latham plays, the right tackle going against Byron Young, that's not a good. That's the type of rusher that JC Latham's going to struggle against. He is not the most fleet of foot. He is not built to handle guys who run the 4.4s. That is who Byron Young is. We saw it last week. I love the Rams in this one, and it's one of your locks, one of Harry's locks. Under is one of my locks. We're all in on the Rams. All right, Buffalo Bills at New York Jets. Bills 6.5-point favorites here. obviously coming off that big win, 41-40 against the Ravens. Jets coming off a heartbreaking loss, 34-32 against the Steelers. 46.5 points is the over-under here. Some big injury news, though. Ed Oliver, DNP on Thursday, ankle injury. He was a one-man defense at times. I like the Jets if he can't go. I truly, not straight up, but definitely against the spread, because we saw last week they are built to shred teams like the Buffalo Bills, teams that go 207 pounds on average of their back 7 defenders, teams that throw out a pretty light front 4 too, that tries to penetrate. Well, what happens when we try to penetrate against double teams across the board? It doesn't work. Can't do it. That's not how, that's why duo is what duo is. So I think the New York Jets, I think they even have a shot of pulling the upset here, as crazy as that sounds. But I like the Jets, and I kind of like the over as well.
I do think the Jets cover here. I don't think they're going to win outright, but I think this game is going to be a lot more competitive. I'm actually surprised that this 46.5 point total isn't a little bigger, because the Jets are going to put up points. I think they're going to be able to run the ball really effectively, especially if Ed Oliver doesn't play. Ed Oliver's quickness was the biggest reason that offense, that they were able to create negative plays for Baltimore, was just his quickness off the ball. If you don't have that, especially against one of, I would say, maybe the most athletic offensive line in the league right now, like if you're able to get those guys out on the move, you're getting your big guys, like you said, out in space against 207-pound safeties, you're going to see a lot of rushing yards for New York. I think Justin Fields gets involved in the run game here as well. And because you have to account for all that, there's going to be a lot of opportunity to run the ball. But the Jets' defensive line hasn't really played well against Buffalo's offensive line. I think Will McDonald has really struggled against Deion Dawkins, Spencer Brown, because those are just two both big, long guys who really can kind of counter his speed. So I do wonder how they slow down this offense, because I mean, if they can't tackle, if their communication isn't up to speed yet, I do think the Bills put up a lot of points. I do think this is going to be a shootout, but the Bills win a close one.
Yeah, it's actually, I mean, I think the Jets are going to play a lot of exciting games this year, as crazy as that sounds. Now, they may not win a lot of games, but I think they're going to play a lot of exciting ones, and I think this one I fully expect to be. And it's one of my locks. I have this one over 46.5 as one of my locks this week. All right, Giants at Cowboys. Cowboys 5.5 point favorites here. 44.5 points is the over-under. Some injury notes. Obviously, Deron Bland didn't practice on Thursday with a foot injury. Michael McFadden, linebacker for the Giants, goes to IR. Both these teams coming off L's in week 1. Who do we have more faith in bouncing back?
I have more faith in the Cowboys, largely because I don't think this Giants offense is very good. Russell Wilson at quarterback. And as long as Russell Wilson is their quarterback, they're going to struggle to move the ball. They weren't able to be explosive against the Commanders offense that we've seen get gashed in the passing game. You weren't able to move the ball downfield. And if you're not able to move the ball downfield, you're able to, like, you're neutering your offense a little bit with Russell Wilson at quarterback, because he's not going to be explosive. I do worry with Deron Bland out how the Cowboys secondary plays, but they fared really well against the Eagles. They had a really good game plan, and I think that their run defense up in between the tackles was really good. I do still think that their edges leave a lot to be desired, which is why they probably brought in Jadeveon Clowney for a visit, because they just can't keep contained. So I do wonder if the Giants move the ball well enough to actually make this a game. But Giants defense versus Cowboys offense should be really fun.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys are uniquely qualified, and why I like them in this game, and even maybe to even cover that number, even if, I was pretty high on the Giants going into this year, but they're powerful. That's you said the Jets are the most athletic offensive line. And it got me thinking in my head, I'm like, who else is some of the most athletic offensive lines in the NFL? But I think if we're doing power, I think the Cowboys are the one. They are strong. They are ox strong across the board, especially that interior of that offensive line. And so because of that, you can maybe – Dexter Lawrence may not kill you, and then you have these lighter edges, guys like Brian Burns, guys like Abdul Carter. I think they'll be able to actually move the football on the ground in this one. And because of that, I think they just score enough points where I don't see the Giants with this current quarterback. Not to harp on it too much, I just don't see them scoring points on anyone. You could throw them against the Panthers, and I wouldn't think they're going to score 25 plus. It's just that's what it is right now in New York.
You mentioned the lighter edges for New York and why Dallas can kind of run at them with some of their gap scheme. I also think their edges kind of play a little undisciplined. They're a little reckless because their game is predicated on speed and getting upfield. You're going to be able to hit a lot of runs beside them, right? Hit a lot of runs in front of them with power, with counter. I expect to see a lot of that, especially running at Burns, Thibodeau, and Carter, because they do they try and slip blocks. They'll try and take blocks on because they're a lot smaller. And you saw it a lot from Washington, where they kind of just hammered at those edges and forced them to lose contain based on how quick they try and play it. And they're just bouncing right where they're supposed to be. So I think Dallas's run game gets it going. I was actually really surprised at how well they played in the run game against Philly, of course, minus Jalen Carter, but that's still a very talented Eagles defensive line. So I think they jump out to a lead early and never really give the lead up because the Giants can't move the ball.
All right, let's get to the Panthers at Cardinals. Cardinals 6.5-point favorites here. 44.5 points is the over-under on this one. We got a bunch of locks from this game because we are a Cardinals fan podcast. Obviously, week one was kind of a meh win, but it was in New Orleans. They still won 20-13. Panthers was less than meh. Panthers was maybe the most disappointing and ugly showing of any team in week one, losing 26-10 in Jacksonville. I love the Cardinals in this one. I just think they wiped the floor with them. At home opener, all the expectations, that D-line, no Turk Wharton for the Panthers in this one. Obviously, Jalen Coker on IR to week 5, so it means literally just Teddarilla McMillan, and I think with Will Johnson, what I saw from him, he can at least, if you want to move him around to go mano-a-mano, he can at least disrupt timing with T-Mac. I love the Cardinals in this one.
Word to the wise. If you're ever wanting like betting tips, just look at whoever the Panthers are playing and bet the over on their running backs rushing yards. Going back and watching the Panthers run defense, that was some of the worst run fits. That was some of the worst run defense tape I've seen. And now they're going up against a Cardinals team that wants to run the ball. I think they might run for 200 this game too. I think the Panthers are going to give up 200 yards again in this game because of how physical they are up front and how physical James Conner is as a runner. I do think Arizona's a weird team offensively because they go through lulls. And last week there were a lot of sacks that I think Kyler took. I think there were some plays that Kyler kind of left on the board, but like you said, 20-13, you get the win. I think this game they're going to figure some stuff out. I think the defense is well equipped and well suited to kind of make Bryce Young think quicker than he wants to. The only reason I think this game really ever kind of gets close is if the Panthers decide just to run the ball on all the weird looks that Arizona will throw at them, because Arizona got caught by New Orleans a couple times kind of in that 3 safety defense, kind of spinning back. And New Orleans just kind of ran the ball at them. But if this game gets out of hand quickly, I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball. So I like Arizona. I think Arizona wins big here. It's a home opener, and I think the Cardinals are still a very good team.
We are in agreement there. All right, 2 more games left. San Francisco 49ers traveling to New Orleans. 49ers 3-point favorites here. 40.5 points is the over-under. But the big news this week, Brock Purdy, toe injury, out 2 to 5 weeks, so not playing in this one. It's going to be Mac Jones time, the way everyone predicted back in 2021. Who were all the insiders that were like, yeah, it's for sure Mac Jones at 3. It's Mac Jones. They loved him. That's why they traded up to 3. Well, now we get to see why they traded up to 3 for Mac Jones. Oh, wait, it was Trey Lance. But it's Mac Jones, and he's not going to be with Juwan Jennings or George Kittle. Juwan Jennings likely out with a shoulder injury. George Kittle goes to IR. So this is kind of like the injury bowl here. So much on both of these sides already depleted. Chase Young, unlikely to play with a calf injury. Trevor Penning, unlikely to play with a toe injury at left guard. Taliesin Fuaga, potentially out at right tackle. So I usually when it's like injury, I tend to stay away from these games. I just am so morbidly curious to see how Mac Jones operates this offense, truthfully.
The reason my lock is the under in this game.
Nice. Yep.
Because as soon as the news came out about Brock Purdy, I'm like, give me the under, because Mac Jones, as someone who watched Mac Jones play for their favorite team last year, not very good at football. And if Kyle Shanahan can get the Niners to 20 points with Mac Jones at quarterback, he is certified gold jacket. Like you are the best to ever do it if you can get 20 points with Mac Jones as your starting quarterback without Jawan Jennings. I do think something that I'm going to be watching is Trent Williams' health. He went out, came back, was not the same player after his injury. I do wonder how healthy he is. He is massive for the success of the Niners offense just in general. But yeah, I do think that this Niners defense against the Saints offensive line is going to be a pretty interesting battle to watch, even though Fuaga and Penning may not play. But this game just feels like it's going to be ugly. It feels like it's going to be slow. This feels like one you're going to look back and just go, what happened here? So I think I like San Francisco here, maybe, because I just trust the coaching of Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh a little bit more. But this game is going to get real sloppy on both sides.
It's just going to be a weird one. It's not going to follow any preconceived notion of either team, I fear. All right, last game of the weekend. New England Patriots traveling to Miami to face the Dolphins. Dolphins 1.5-point favorites. This is the disappointment bowl after what both teams laid an egg week one. 43.5 points over under here. I think I'm so disappointed with the Pats in a number of different ways, but everyone's been talking about Drake May and his disappointment, but they gave up like damn near 400 yards to Geno Smith. Their pass defense should be good. It has the talent to be very good. It is not very good and wasn't even last year with this same talent. So that's the biggest thing for me I'm watching. I lean Patriots in this one, but man, I need to see more from the secondary, especially when Dolphins in week one, they actually had the highest EPA per rush and the lowest EPA per pass. That is a unique combo, and Tua was able to pull it off somehow. This is an offense that you should be able to stop, especially with all that money invested in DT and the weak links on the interior of that Dolphins offensive line. Like, everything's lining up that the Patriots should have a big bounce back game, but I'm going to need to see it before I believe it.
So I have a question to ask you. Is having a players only meeting after week one a bad thing? Is that bad? Because the Dolphins had a players only meeting after the first game of the season, which feels like shit's about to go off the rails.
So for the Dolphins, who even calls a players only meeting? Like who's the alpha dog you think in that locker room that's like, hey, fellas, we need to do this?
Is it Seiler?
Okay. I can see that. Yeah. Sealer.
I don't think it's anybody on the offense.
No, I think they're all scared of each other. I think like Tua is scared of talking to any of those wide receivers. Yeah. I
don't think I'd want to hear anything from the Dolphins offense if I'm a Dolphins defender. Like, y'all put up 8 points. Like, you got to help us out. I do kind of lean Patriots here just because of all the injuries to Miami's offensive line. And I feel like this is a game where if you can speed Tua up, if you can get him heated up, I do think you're able to beat them. I am wondering if Christian Gonzalez plays. I think their pass defense didn't lack some teeth against the Raiders, largely because Christian Gonzalez didn't play. But if they're able to just kind of tee off on the Dolphins' offensive line, I do think this game is going to get out of hand.
Mike McDaniel, where's he the OC at next year?
Oh, man.
San Francisco? He returned to make the trio?
I think he comes home. He comes home to San Francisco.
Oh, that would be the one I'm very interested in. And I actually had a dream about it the other day. Cincinnati Bengals would be an interesting one to see him OC at, but I digress. We'll see. Hopefully they bounce back, but this is about as discouraging, like you said. Players only meeting after week one, how putrid they looked on both sides of the ball in week one. Things better change quick, or else he's on the hottest of seats as it gets in the NFL. All right, let's recap our locks here. Locks are sponsored all season long by Cash App. Making money moves should be easy, and that's why there's Cash App. It's fast, safe, and honestly just way more personalized than the other apps out there. JP, your locks are the Philly at KC under 46.5, James Connors over 64.5 rushing yards, Harold Fannin Jr.'s over 3.5 receptions, the under in 49ers Saints. You got it at 42.5 though. Good on you. It's already dropped 2 points. Rams minus 5.5 as well. I have Bills Jets over 46.5, Broncos Colts under 43.5, Rams Titans under 41.5, Cardinals minus 6.5, Bucks plus 2.5. Harry's locks, Rams minus 5.5, Seahawks Steelers over 39.5, Marvin Harris Jr. over 55.5 receiving yards, and then Kyle's, as we heard in the show yesterday, Arizona money line, Buffalo money line. I still argue he's cheating. He's going to fix that next week, but we shall see. We'll be back Monday, not Sunday, because I am in Portugal, and that would be way too damn early for me. We'll be back Monday, first thing in the morning. Come check us out then. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, keep pushing.